I was testing stuff this morning was negative, so but I would say okay.
1, 2, testing 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing, 1, 2.
Okay, Danny, thank you. Okay, members, agenda item number 1 is apologies. One apology from Councillor Grania O'Neill. Is there any other? Councillor Savage.
Chair, Councillor Hockey will not be able to make it tonight.
Okay, members, declarations of interest, we'll take them as the meeting progresses. Agenda item number 3, and it's the Strategic Director report, and Olga is taking it. Okay, Olga.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. This is an information item in relation to the work that's taken place in terms of the Dublin-Belfast Economic Corridor. The 8 local authorities from Dublin right through to Belfast are working together with Dublin City University and Ulster University. The Economic Corridor was formally launched in March of last year, and then recently the Councillor Oversight Board took place on the 23rd of November as well. Work is ongoing in relation to the development of a plan and an action plan in terms of identifying our key sectors for growth and how do we work in partnership with the business community, the private sector and the voluntary sector as well. And further updates will be brought back to committee.
Thank you, Olga. Any members, any questions, or move on? The first 2 items for information anyway. So if no questions, we'll move on to 3.2. Olga?
Excuse me.
Chair, just before you move on.
Sorry, Councillor Savage.
Alderman Burns was in before me, Chair.
Okay, Alderman Burns.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions for Olga. Will there be a headquarters for this organisation? And, you know, will they be opening an office, and where's it going to be placed? And the second one, will they be able to draw funding down to help, say, the likes of the Banbridge Business Centre that would need money spent on it, that's, you know, to help the businesses that are already set up in there? Is that the sort of thing that they're going to be doing? Perhaps Olga could give me an answer, please.
Okay, Olga.
Thank you, Alderman Burns. The development plan work that's underway will help identify, you know, what are the resources going to be needed for the partnership in the future, and where would it be based and located. Currently, it is the 8 local authorities working together, but the governance structure would have to be developed as a result of that as well. And like all opportunities for collaboration and cooperation, we're really keen to draw down whatever sources of funding will be out there, and to help businesses to avail of funding opportunities as well. And I know the team have been working with Banbridge Enterprise Agency to try and help them in that regard, but that's what we want to see. Is there other sources of funding that we can bring in to the region?
Okay, Alderman Burns.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Kyle Savage, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Olga, for the report. Olga, I know, just suppose following on from Alderman Burns, I know you'll be doing your best to try and get an office or headquarters in the ABC area for this, the Belfast-Dublin Economic Corridor. I know how important it is and the money that's going to come for that. But I suppose on a similar tranche as well, you know, we need to be looking for projects now and opportunities within the area. And there's one big opportunity I see in Dromore, and I have been talking to local businesses and the headmaster not in the local area, and that is the old primary school in Dromore. And could we possibly engage with the Education Authority to see what their plans are for it? Because to me, that's a perfect opportunity for a business hub in Dromore, and if funding can be drew down for that. And I suppose really we're putting it on the radar here now, because this is what we need in the Dromore area. So thank you very much, Olga and Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Savage, and certainly we'll follow up with the Education Authority in relation to that particular project. We have brought forward quite a number of schemes recently in the Dromore area, building on from the public realm scheme and the revitalisation scheme, but opportunities to encourage businesses to relocate and support could be an opportunity for other sources of funding. So we'll follow that up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Olga. Alderman Anderson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Olga, for the report. Just as a matter of interest, to note that the budget for this will be included in next year's estimates process. Have we any idea what the amount of money we're allocating, and is that being spread across all the participating councils? Thank you.
Yes, Alderman Anderson, all the 8 local authorities are being asked to contribute as part of the development plan and the process to date. And I can bring back information in terms of what that amount of money will be. We're in the middle of the estimates process at the moment. We're getting details through from the development plan as to what the sources of funding and what councils will be expected or asked to contribute, so we can bring that back. I can circulate that.
Thank you, Olga. Okay, members content with that there. If so, we'll move on to 3.2. Olga again.
Thank you, Chair. And members, this is in relation to the technical study work for the Portadown to Armagh railway line provision. And it's to advise members that we have appointed AECOM to undertake that piece of work and to acknowledge the funding that's come through from the Department of Infrastructure for it as well. Meeting of the Armagh City Railway Working Group will be arranged to discuss this. We're also acknowledging that NILGA are undertaking a virtual meeting in relation to the response to the All-Ireland Strategic Rail Review, and to highlight that the Infrastructure Committee from the Assembly recently undertook a visit to Armagh, and there was an opportunity to highlight the infrastructure issues impacting on the borough.
Thank you, Olga. We have 2 speakers here with Alderman Spears and then Councillor Sam Nicholson. Alderman Spears.
And in relation to the timescale in producing the technical study, as you know, and there is a railway working group, and they have well, they're quite active. There's a group in Armagh Powers, which is an organisation that is very supportive of, in fact, set up for the purpose of driving the return of the railway to Armagh. And I meet them from quite regular and have conversations with them. As chair of the working committee, I would appreciate if we had some clarity as to the outcome of this technical study, and then the next steps in relation to it. So maybe Olga has maybe some clarity in relation to that, please.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. Olga.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. We will be convening a meeting with AECOM, to discuss the project methodology and the timeline, and then we'll be bringing that back to the Railway Working Group. This is a very important piece of work, and we want to include it within our response to the RST-NTP. So we would hope that as a piece of work, it could be undertaken within a 4-month time frame, but we'll meet with them and then advise the working group on that. So.
Thank you, Olga. Content, Alderman Spears. Okay, Councillor Sam Nicholson, please.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Olga, for your report. And like Alderman Spears spoke before me, I welcome this development. As you said, Olga, yourself, it's a very important piece of work, and this is a step forward, having appointed AECOM. And again, I suppose what he called my question, Olga, is in relation to strategic rail review, what's the closing date for that? And are we hoping that this AECOM report will be ready and delivered pre that? So that will be part of our response to the strategic rail review, Olga. Am I right in saying that, or do they both run simultaneously? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Olga?
Councillor Nicholson, the All Ireland Rail Review work, it's more like a questionnaire that needs to be completed, and officers are currently working on that at the moment, but we'll liaise back with AECOM in relation to that, and that has to be submitted by the end of January, and that's what NILGA are actually holding a meeting as well to make sure that there will be responses in as part of that railway review. We also want to use that technical study to feed into the Regional Strategic Transport Network Plan, and that hasn't gone out for consultation as yet. So we're awaiting details as to when that will be announced.
Thank you, Olga. Okay, members content? Those two items were for noting, and if so, we'll move on to agenda item 4. And we have one item for decision on Nicola Wilson. Okay, Nicola?
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. Item 4.1, COVID Recovery Small Settlements Regeneration Programme. So there's a number of decisions required under this particular item. So it's recommended that members approve in principle participating in the COVID Recovery Small Settlements Regeneration Programme. And number 1, agree the following areas for intervention projects: investment in environmental improvement schemes for Guildford, Rathfriland and Market Hill, investment in business support grants to be developed for shop frontage, dereliction and shared workspace across the borough and the smaller settlements, enhancement of street furniture to include cycle infrastructure, again borough-wide, and investment in electric vehicle charging, again borough-wide. Number 2, agree to support the programme with total investment of £353,370 as match funding towards a funding allocation of 3.18 million. Now, the match funding is not profiled within existing budgets. However, it could be considered as part of the estimate setting process, as it is an additional cost pressure. And number 3, approval is sought at the Governance, Resources and Strategy Committee in February 22.
Okay, Olga, thanks for that report. Members, we'll have a number of people looking to speak. So we'll have Councillor Barry first and then Alderman Spears.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Nicola for your report. I was encouraged to see this in the report, especially for Guildford, Rathfriland and Market Hill. Now, obviously, Market Hill is within the area Cruiser, which I represent, but Guildford and Rathfriland also, it's tremendous to see this in the report, and I'm happy to propose that we proceed with this, because so many times we as rural councillors constantly lobby for the rural towns, and I think it's vitally important that this here regeneration programme, whilst it's 3.1 million and our contributions over 300,000, to be honest, I think it's money well spent, and I think this will help to revitalise these areas, because so many businesses in the rural areas have always felt that the bigger towns get the big investment and get the big attention when it comes to funding and marketing and all of that there. So I think this here will go in a small way, but in a very positive way of trying to revitalise and regenerate these small towns. So I'm delighted to support this and propose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barry, and points well made there. Thank you. Alderman Spears, please.
Chairman, I don't suspect there's anyone in this chamber has mentioned these 3 locations more than I have in over the last number of years. They are all stage 3 towns, and literally they have had nothing spent in them, no opportunities available in terms of grant aid. And I certainly very much welcome this as, would I say, a first step in the road to something meaningful and major happening within those locations. If we take Market Hill, for instance, there is no better business town within this entire ABC area, and yet and all, it has been designated as a stage 3 town, and consequently hasn't been able to avail of any support from government agencies. I certainly welcome the report, and it has been proposed that we adopt it. I have utmost pleasure in seconding that, and I would like to thank you, Nicola, and others that were involved. You and I had met out in Market Hill and indeed discussed how we could move forward with support for the things that need done there. And there are many things that need to happen in that area. As I said earlier, it is an area of great business area whereby a lot of people visit. Now we have Gosford, and you know there's a lot of people coming to that area, and we can't lose sight of the fact that it needs support, and the businesses within that area need support to be able to attract and retain the support of the people that are visiting the area. So I would like to say a sincere word of thanks, and I look forward to working with the officers in bringing forward direct proposals in relation to this particular money, but indeed setting a clear template for development within the 3 areas as we move forward. It's good to have a plan. It's good to have a plan and a roadmap whereby one wants to travel with a view to economic development, or indeed any other matter for that. But in terms of economic development, in terms of regeneration, one has to have a fairly clear roadmap as to how one wants to proceed. And this is certainly very much welcome first step in that direction. And I, as I say, have much pleasure in seconding the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Spears, and points well made there. Thank you. Members, we have a number of others looking to speak. So we'll go with Councillor Pope first and then Councillor O'Halloran. Councillor Pope.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair, and thank you, Nicola, for the report. Likewise, I absolutely really welcome this. I know when we had the motion last year at a full council meeting with regards to the transfer of powers and funding, small settlements such as these were very much in the headlines. So maybe that proved as maybe a wee bit of an encouragement. So, but nonetheless, very welcome. Nicola, just in terms of the environmental improvements and really coordination of that, making sure that we are looking at active travel and the coordination as well with the electrical vehicle parking. I mean, for instance, will there be cheaper parking and more facilities relating to the electrical vehicle charging? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pope. Nicola, do you want to take that?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question, Councillor Pope. I suppose a lot of the detail has still to be worked out, but you're absolutely right. Coordination with so many other bodies and with businesses and with stakeholders is going to be key in making this work in a seamless way. We already know there are a number of different groups across the borough that have active travel plans and also electric vehicle charging plans. So we have we don't want to replicate what they're doing. So we'll meet with all the interested parties and make sure that we have a coordinated approach to all of these issues.
Thank you, Nicola. Content, Councillor Pope?
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Nicola.
Thank you. We'll have Councillor O'Hanlon next, and then I'll take Councillor Greenfield, followed by Councillor Macaulay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Nicola, for the report. I suppose, like others before me, for those of us who represent rural communities, it's great to see investment going into the areas outside the big three or the big four. I suppose, in fairness to Councillor Spears, he's been on the Market Hill hobby horse now from, I suppose, from I joined the old Armagh Council in 2005. And I know he lost a colleague in recent months in terms of Billy Johnson, and I think it would be testament tonight to remember Billy whenever money was going earmarked towards Market Hill. Just in Nicola, can I just ask in relation to the investment around shop fronts, and can I just check that's borough wide, but maybe if we could ask you to consider that it's not just a shop front. We had the paint scheme. Which followed the environmental improvement schemes in the like of Katy and Rich Hill. They were for £750, I think it was, but the improvement that that intervention made by way of a paint scheme to allow businesses whose shop front is fine, but if the front of the building was painted and tidied up, it makes a significant improvement in the town or village, and I would ask that is included as part of the overall scheme. And obviously, whilst I see the investment in electric vehicle charging points been a priority, I would be keen to ensure that we don't duplicate where others are investing, because if we do, that could very easily swallow up a significant amount of the money that's in that pot. So I'd be keen to see as much of our towns and villages benefit from that, and particularly through that shop front stroke a paint scheme if possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon. Points well made, Nicola.
Sorry, Chair, I wasn't sure if you wanted me to come in there. Yeah, absolutely, Councillor O'Hanlon, points are well made there. And we intend to learn from what has worked well across the borough on a number of different schemes. So we know that one size doesn't fit all, and you're absolutely right. There are so many improvements that can be made with smaller amounts of money, larger amounts of money, and different ways of doing things. So we plan to investigate and bring all of those to the table as well. The electric vehicle charging points, yes, we're aware that could take up a large amount of budget. So if there are other bodies already doing that out there in the field, well, it'd be more appropriate if they did that instead of us, perhaps.
Thank you, Nicola. Thank you, Nicola. Councillor Greenfield and then Councillor Macaulay.
Thank you, Chair. And Chair, I just want to be associated with the remarks we've gone previous. It's great to see this investment, especially in the smaller towns like Guildford and Rathfriland and of course Market Hill. And just also want to welcome it. Thank the team for all the work that's been done on it. And I was just also to put note there that it's great to see a scheme that is going to be delivered within the next year to 2 years, as opposed to all these things seem to be long drawn out. So reading through that is certainly very welcome, and thank you for the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Greenfield. Councillor Macaulay, please.
Thanks, Chair. And thank you, Nicola, for the report. Yes, I very much welcome this. I'm not going to regurgitate just what everybody else has said, but I do know sort of from the workshop it was very, very useful, and certainly the small towns like Rathfriland, Guildford and Market Hill, I know the businesses and the residents and users that have been in contact with me will very much welcome that and enjoy that small win, should we say, that our rural areas will be seeing. But yeah, very much welcome it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Macaulay. We have 3 more speakers: Alderman Burns, Councillor Kyle Savage, and finish off with Sam Nicholson. Thank you, Alderman Burns.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Nicola, for the report, and thanks very much for organising the workshop. Councillor Macaulay and myself did attend the workshop, and we did bat for both Guildford and Rathfriland at that, as well as Market Hill. Certainly these areas have been forgotten about for quite some time, and there is a chance of major investment within Guildford in the not too distant future. So hopefully this will complement it, and also, you know, to support the businesses in the likes of Rathfriland, which is a gateway to the Mourns. Thank you very much, Nicola, and thanks for your report.
Thank you, Alderman Burns. Councillor Kyle Savage.
Thank you, Chair. And again, thank you very much, Nicola, and all the team for the report. And like some of you, I attended the workshop before Christmas and was able to put points across. Yeah, it's great to see Rathfriland, Guildford, Market Hill getting their fair share of it here. Disappointed that Donaghcloney, Marlin didn't get theirs this time, but I know the shop front thing is wide, borough wide, and that can, hopefully some of our businesses can avail of that. But I suppose it's an ongoing process, and those that were at the workshop would realise that there's a tight time scale here and a tight turnaround. Yes, it sounds a lot of money, but whenever we break it down, it's not going to be a lot of money. Visually within the area, it's going to be a start. I see this as a starting point where we can continue to lobby for those areas like Donaghcloney that have never got any funding into, and Marlin. And so I think it's important. But there's one other thing too, Nicola, and this needs to be took on board as well. The small settlements under a population of 1,000 people, that's something we need to keep on the radar here. And every opportunity we get with DAERA is to continue to raise that. There's small settlements like the Milltown here beside me, and Gamblestown, Waringsford, and all those places. And they're totally neglected by council. And we need to do more to help and support those. But look, it's a win and we'll take it. But we need to keep on the button here and keep this going and take whatever funding and raise the profile of this, the rural communities right throughout, and the tier 2 towns and all. So thank you very much, Nicola, and all the team.
Thank you, Councillor Kyle Savage. Councillor Sam Nicholson, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Nicola, and for your report, and thanks to your office for bringing this forward. Like others before, obviously I welcome this investment, and as was said by Councillor Barry, I think that what we have to put in to deliver over 3 million, I think is very much affordable. Nicola, I have a couple of questions in relation to the detail here, and maybe you'll not know it tonight. I did attend the workshop like many others, and I did bring up the possibility of emptied occupied schemes being part of this. I don't see it mentioned. It does mention a dereliction, which I'm hoping that it sort of is covering that in the context of an umbrella, because I think these towns and villages need more than paint schemes and shop fronts, which of course we're very welcome. But I think there is a lot of empty and derelict properties, which could really, with a bit of investment, bring new businesses and bring buildings back to life. That's my first question. My second question is in relation to the overall project. As I understand from the workshop, Nicola, this has to be confirmed by the end of March and the money spent by end of March 2023. How shovel ready are we in these projects to try and sort of deliver on, as was already said by Councillor Savage, the tight timescale? And finally, Nicola, it's in relation to what something was mentioned by Councillor Savage. There was a small settlement scheme which came through this committee and is in the financial plan, in our capital plan. Can we have a wee bit of an update on that? Because that was something that came through this committee, proposed by myself, to recognise that there are smaller settlements in this borough that don't qualify for SOAR funding. And that was ring-fenced and secured as part of the capital plan. I'm just wondering where that is in relation to its delivery on the ground. But thanks, Nicola, again, and thank you, your officers. This is a very welcome report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Nicola, can you take, and I think I'll go on as well.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, again, all great questions, Councillor Nicholson. The possibility of empty to occupied, I think definitely the possibility is in there, and it may not be exactly empty to occupied as has been in the past within larger rural settlements, but there is an opportunity to do something very similar. and to find whatever that is. So as I said earlier, everything's on the table. We're learning from best practice from what we've done before as the council and others have done as well, and making sure that we bring all those things through, because you're right, it's the future investment and the investability of the towns as well. In relation to shovel ready, there's certainly the will there to be shovel ready, and we will be pushing as quickly as we can to get all the procurement in place and all the requirements necessary to be shovel ready to have this project completed. We have a very good working relationship with the Department for Communities, and I know that they're going to work very carefully alongside us to help us meet those deadlines. So we are as ready as we can be, and we're anticipating that it's not going to be easy, but that we will meet the challenge. And in relation to the smaller settlement scheme, I think Olga has some information on that for you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. And yes, the smaller settlements scheme is currently on the capital plan, which is still under review. But to advise that we have worked up elements of that in potential opportunities for funding as well. So we do have projects that could be worked up if funding did become available from government departments in relation to that as well.
Thank you, Olga and Nicola, for that there. Members, there's two more, you've already spoken. I'll let you in briefly. Councillor O'Halloran, please.
Chair, just maybe a point. I know whenever we're doing the Katy and Rich Hill schemes, we used TNI's measured term contract to do environmental improvement schemes, and that was a quicker and more cost-effective way of delivering the schemes in terms of footpaths and stuff like that. So, Nicola, you may want to engage with TNI around if that's a possibility to ensure that any money is secured or spent within the designated timeline. We don't want to be handing any money back.
Certainly, Councillor Hannon will explore all those opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Last word to Alderman Spears, please.
It's more a question, really, and I mean, the issue of the collaborative approach that has been taken across the various government departments, I must say, is particularly welcome. And I'm just asking a question: is there anything that we can do or should do with a view to promoting more of that, as it were, in terms of some of the other places that we have just mentioned or have been mentioned that haven't had the opportunity that is being presented here? And I think it is sort of very much a welcome approach, because Department of Communities, Road Service and DOE and Department of Agriculture, to a great extent, they have been working in silos to a great extent, and it's good to see that there is some sort of joined up thinking. I know that there was quite a bit of work went on behind the scenes, and Olga was involved. I had raised it here several times about how we sort of begin to break down that and get some opportunities. So I'm just curious to know, is there anything that we can do as a council to build on that for the areas that are not mentioned? Because I think it is a better approach than anything that has happened heretofore. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. Yes, maybe Olga, do you want to take this?
Yes, thank you, Alderman. Thank you, Alderman Spears. And I think the testament has been the delivery by local councils on the ground for funding schemes. So members will be aware of what work was done in relation to the COVID recovery scheme last year, where we were able to work with the different government departments to allocate money right on the ground. And I think this is testament where local government is very strong, because it is in contact with businesses and residents and local communities. We can certainly follow up with the officials within the government departments to identify what other sources of funding could be available for those smaller settlements, and to see in terms of this scheme whether it could be rolled out for some of those other rural areas as well. So we can follow up with the government department.
Thank you, Olga. And yes, that would be welcome there. So thank you. Okay, members, 4.1, we have a proposer and seconder. Everyone agreed? Okay, members, the next number of items are for information, 4.2 to 4.6. And I think Nicola maybe wants to say something, 4.2.
Yes, Chair. Actually, yes, under item 4.2, it's actually a bit of good news, which is really good for January. It appears on page 6 of the notes from my report, and it's under the Industrial Future Programme, Industrial Site Scoping Study Funding Opportunity. Officers made an application to this particular fund for the work that Council has been doing on Carnsego and Charlestown Road, and we received a letter of confirmation of funding to work with the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy on the delivery of a new decarbonisation roadmap for this area, which is worth £100,000 to us. We will be participating along with 12 other sites, which is also very exciting for the businesses in that area. And we're taking part in a larger scoping study to have a net zero carbonisation road plan developed for the area. So a little bit of good news for January.
Thank you, Nicola. Yeah, good news indeed. With one speaker, Councillor Kyle Savage. Is it on this 4.2, Kyle?
Yeah, it is, Chair. Yeah, thanks, Chair, for letting me in there. Good news is right, Nicola, and it's great to see that we're making headway within the environmental issue that faces us all, the climate change and all of that. So it's good to see. But Nicola, I want to come in on this here because we had requested a long time ago in this committee that about the lack of work out of Invest NI and getting land allocated. There's businesses there within the Seago and Cairn area, and if we don't get things done very soon, they're going to be away. They're going to be outside this council area. And I would like a letter to go back to Invest NI and ask them to get to this committee and answer for their inaction, because we're going to lose jobs and businesses out of this area if we don't get answers on land to these businesses ASAP. There's one business at the minute, they're going to create about 100 odd jobs. They need 15 acres of commercial land. And where is it? The Invest NI are hogging the land and they won't give it up. So action needs to be taken in this, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. Olga, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, Councillor Savage, following on from the last request of committee, a meeting has been arranged for the committee to meet with representatives from Invest NI to discuss the industrial lands issue, and that's going to take place in the 3rd week of February.
Thank you very much, Olga. I hope we still have time to save these businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga. Councillor Barry, is it in the 4.2? Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Nicola, for your report. I've spoken on this issue before, and it's not going to be of any surprise to you in relation to an area that is not mentioned in this report of no fault to the council, but it's that of TDI in Tanrigee. Now, obviously, that's a local sort of community stroke business, social enterprise, which I think the council have engaged. And I'm annoyed that there's no progress made on it, not at council level, because I know I've spoken to Nicola and Olga and others in the past on this. And I would like to know, is there some way that we could, as even councillors for the Cushie area, get together to discuss this matter? Because yes, it is very much in the hands of TDI to engage and to progress, but it does annoy me as a local councillor that there is a large sort of enterprise centre there that's sitting idle that could be utilised. It's on the A27 between Portadown and Newry. And frankly, I think more needs to be done. And I think it would be good if we could have a conversation with council officers, Nicola and Olga, in relation to how we actually progress this here matter, to see how we can encourage, engage and lead along TDI or whoever it needs to be to try and progress this, because it's a tragedy that in such a large town, it's not identified here as an enterprise centre, which they have the capacity there. And last but not least, obviously there's been an announcement about White's Mill in Tanrigee that could possibly be locating to Invest NI land not too far from here. And I have spoken to the chief executive of Whites are Fane Valley, who's a local man, and obviously have expressed my concerns. And I think it would be good if we could engage with those folk at that senior level to see if there's something as a council that we could do to maybe try to hold on to this site. They're not sure whether the whole site's going to be vacant, if all of the 75 employees are going to be leaving Tanragee in the next near future. They look at maybe the whole gluten-free market and how they could maybe retain part of that site. But I'm very conscious that there's a commercial industrial site there that we should be looking now to see if we can try to see if there's something that we could do collectively with the owners and also with TDI to see how we could try to regenerate that side of the industrial and commercial side of Tanragee and district.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Nicola, do you want to follow through?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to say, I'm very, very happy to convene that meeting to discuss all those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Alderman Spears.
I support what Councillor Barry has said. Indeed, him and I, some time ago, I'm not sure, a couple of years ago, there was a discussion. In fact, we met with the folk from TDI. And at that time, there was certainly to me, there was a clear willingness to be involved and engage with the council. I do remember discussing it with you, Olga, I think at that particular time. And this is an organisation that was set up in the community, but it had very much hands-on by the Armagh Council. There was a number of councillors that were founding members of it. Robert Turner, Tom Chanavan, Jimmy Clayton, and whatever, and a few locals. So it is a community business, and it is one that it certainly we as a council, and the point that has been made, need to follow that forward. In relation to the Whites Mill, it's a big sort of move for Fane Valley. It has certainly been welcomed. Its development. Yes, I had discussions with the chief executive of Fane Valley, Trevor Lockhart, as well. And in those discussions, there was indications that there would be other opportunities possibly arising via Fane Valley for some particular work that could be done or carried on at the White site. And the context of further discussion as that programme develops, I understand that they have made a planning application for their new particular development here in Craigavon. Obviously, it is not going to happen overnight, but it does present us as a council an opportunity to effectively engage with them with a view to hopefully, and the indications were sustaining some aspects of that particular business, some niche aspects of that particular business in Tanragee. And I would like to think that that can be followed forward because that's, as I understand, the status of what was said to the elected representatives for, I think, the Cusher area, all met with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. I'm sure the officers will follow that up. Yep, so thank you. Alderman Burns, is this in the same item, is it?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, yep.
I just want to ask the question for Nicola. The Refinery Road Banbridge industrial area, is that the place that's zoned but hasn't been developed and probably will never be developed? Because if that's the case, then we need to be looking for more industrial land within the Banbridge area, because we don't have any other than what's being built on at the moment at the boulevard. But if it's an industrial land that was zoned on the Refinery Road, chances of that ever being developed now are slim.
Thank you, Alderman Burns. Nicola, do you want to take that?
Yes, Chair, I'll need to just check that for you, just to be sure of the information. But I can contact you after and just clarify that.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Nicola.
Nicola.
Thanks, Chairman.
Okay, Councillor Oliver Burns. Oliver Mitri, is this the same item?
Chair, it's not. I've been having communication problems. It's an item that has gone before, but I'm asking your forbearance in relation to it.
Yes, we'll take Councillor Kevin Savage first and then let you come in at the last.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My 4.5, is that all right? No, it's Chair, it's just to welcome the response to the High Street Task Force call for evidence. And I think in the conclusion, it's very important that we have asked for a seat at the table, because I think if you look at the membership of the task force, there's no representative from local government on it. And I think it's important that we have a voice. Now, I know there's no date for a response being issued, but I'll be keen for members to be updated as soon as possible if we hear that the local councils or even a representative of the local councils could be a member of it. So thank you, Chair.
Good points, Councillor Gavin Savage. Alderman Mitri, do you want to come in now?
Yes, Chair. Thank you for this. I apologise, as I say, the connection's bad, but just on a previous issue there, Councillor Savage very rightly raised the issue of Invest NI and the very considerable land bank that they have within the borough that hasn't been used. Now, this has been raised on many occasions over the years. Could I just suggest that maybe the director goes back? She indicated that we have a date with Invest NI in late February. Could I ask that we request that the chief executive of Invest NI come down and meet at that meeting? Because this is an important issue, and Councillor Savage has highlighted it. You know, there are jobs at stake here, and this matters to our borough. And it has mattered to our borough for 20 years. And I think we need to be pushing on this at all levels, whether through yourselves as a council or our local MLAs or MPs, to try and get some resolution to this. So perhaps if Councillor Savage was to take that on board, if he was prepared to, that we extend the invite to the chief executive himself. Thank you.
Happy to accept that, Chair, because we do need, this is jobs and people's lives we're talking about here. So we need everybody's shoulder to the wheel on this one. So happy to accept.
Thank you, Alderman Mitri. Olga, do you want to just, is that okay? Yeah, that's okay. Olga will follow that through. Thank you, members. Okay, members, that's the items of information dealt with. We're moving on to the agenda number 5, and it's Head of Tourism, and with Brian taking it. Brian Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. And good evening, members. 5.1 relates to the UK City of Culture bid update. To reassure members, good progress has been made on all fronts. There's a number of aspects outlined in the report. I just draw your attention to a number of those. The engagement piece has really picked up, and we're getting a lot of really good traction with local residents and local business people in terms of support for the bid. There will be postcards going out later this month to each and every house in the borough, and the poet Paul Muldoon has produced a poem for each of Armagh, Banbridge and Craigavon in that, and those will go out to the homes. We've received a number of other letters of support, and members have been very supportive themselves in terms of ensuring parties and party colleagues have been supportive. So the letters of support have been very welcome. There is a stakeholder group meeting on Thursday with relevant government departments, including the Tourist Board, Arts Council, Department for Communities and others. So that's all progressing very well. In terms of financing, we have a funding plan, draft funding plan almost in place, looking at all sorts of various aspects of funding from government funding through to trusts and foundations through to business as well, and that's coming together well for the submission. In terms of governance, we've mentioned before previously about the notion of setting up a delivery company or delivery mechanism if we're successful in this bid. And at this stage, the entity looks like it will have charitable status, but there's a bit more work to be done on that. And I know there are party briefings scheduled for later this month, and with the expectation I'll come along and give a bit more of an update on all of the aspects. The bid is due for submission on the 2nd of February, and so it's all hands on deck at the minute to get the bid together. But just again to reiterate that beyond the 2nd of February, we will continue working on this and developing concepts and projects that are coming forward at this stage. So the recommendation before members is that members endorse the approach for the UK City of Culture bid 2025 process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. And yes, a lot of good work been done in the background. So we have a couple of speakers here with Councillor Paul Greenfield and then Councillor Pope, please. Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Brian, for your report and for the work that's going this far. Certainly happy to support and propose this, Brian. But just want to ask, Brian, do you feel that we have all the resources needed to get the bid really well set up for this date in February? Just feedback on that, for I know it seems to be an awful lot has to be put together, but certainly happy to support it, Brian. Thank you.
Brian, do you want to come in there, Brian?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Greenfield. Yes, I mean, reiterated before, the council, as council officers, team across all departments have fully embraced this and came in behind it, and we have some external support as well. So it's been a really good project in terms of joint working, and I've been heartened with the support we've received from across council and from the external people that we've engaged. So yes, thank you, Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Brian. Councillor Pope, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Brian, and thank you very much for all your team's work. Certainly the engagement meetings, have been very useful indeed. Just looking at the legacy side of things, and I know that this is very much a green bid, and in order to offset CO2 emissions, one key element can be tree planting, and it's something that I'm sure your team is looking at the moment. If you could maybe just comment on the viability of that, certainly possibly the extension of parks or green corridors. As I say, we talked earlier on about the Belfast-Dublin A1 corridor in that area, which would be sort of the east of the borough. An enhancement like that could be very valuable as a potential legacy element. So welcome a few thoughts on that, Brian, if you could.
Thank you, Councillor Pope. Brian, come on.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Pope. Yes, as you've said, Councillor Pope, the Green Agenda has been central to this, obviously, with all of the government targets that's been mentioned before. So we've been working with Strategic Investment Board. They have a specialist team in there who are working across the civil service, looking at the whole carbon agenda. And so we've been working with them. We've been working with an academic team through one of the universities as well. And so we're providing evidence for carbon footprint and again the mitigation. So it's very much an evidence bid on all aspects of this, because there's obviously an awful lot of theory that goes behind it. We're also looking at aspects, and we've been talking with some of the transport providers around transport networks across the borough as well into the borough. So yes, we're looking at this in a very much in a holistic way, Councillor Pope, and there is a section within the bid that needs to reflect that, but it's implied at each and every aspect of the bid. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. You content, Councillor Pope?
Yeah, I think maybe a country park would be fantastic, but maybe possibly a step too far in the area. But thank you, Brian. Thank you, indeed.
Thank you, Councillor Sam Nicholson, please.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Brian, for your report. And I wish you well in achieving that 2nd of February target. And hopefully we're successful and get through to the last three. But I will say something, Brian, and from myself personally and being out and about, I think it is becoming more and more on people's radar. I think there is a bit of a a surge, the PR activity I've listened to on the radio, etc., and social media, etc. I think bringing it more into people's sort of thoughts. So hopefully, this other these cards and things that you're putting around to each household, etc., will become more and more. Will add to the momentum, because I do think people realise that this is potentially a game changer for the borough and obviously for Armagh City. And there's nobody saying why Armagh, you know what I mean, or why the borough, you know what I mean, that why not? As I say, I was up in Londonderry there at the weekend, and obviously, you know, it's been a while since I've been up there, and the transformation up there on the back of what they have done, you know, is phenomenal. And I hope we could see the similar in obviously in our city and within the borough. So look, Brian, wish you well, and as I say to you, all shoulders to the wheel between now and February, and hopefully we get through to the next bit. So thanks for your report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. And we'll give the last word to Councillor O'Hanlon, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Brian, for the report and the continued work on the bid. Can I just ask in relation to your thoughts in terms of how's the bid been approached or been received by government departments? Is the support there? And I think that's the important bit. And I don't want platitudes. I want people putting their hand in their pocket and saying, you know what, you guys get this, we're in it with you. And legacy is a big part of this project. Legacy, whenever you see what they have done in Derry, but also what you have seen in other cities on these islands, would be it the UK City of Culture or the European City of Culture, the impact that this has both in a physical regeneration, but also in community and the arts is where, and I'd be keen that any legacy program, yes, there's the physical infrastructure, but also there's the legacy around community and legacy around the arts going forward. And whilst I've asked you about the uptake or the support from government, in terms of the private sector, you know, for example, beds and accommodation is going to be a major part of this. Are you getting any feedback or uptake or bite from the private sector going, well, look, if this comes forward, we're willing to consider investing in Armagh or wherever in terms of accommodation. But look, thank you and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon. Brian, do you want to come in there?
Yes, thank you. Both members. I would just say on Councillor Nicholson's point, if you keep your eye out over the next week or two, we're doing quite a lot of work, and just to acknowledge the work Claire McKenna and Comms has been doing around champions. So we have a number of notable people who have come forward and want to be associated with the bid. So there'll be some videos going out over the next number of days and weeks to sort of endorse the bid. In terms of Councillor O'Hanlon's questions, we have had good support from government departments. I mean, we had the early endorsement from First Minister and Deputy First Minister's office, which was really welcomed, and I think that puts us in a strong position. We've spoken to a number of government departments at official level, and we have plans. We've spoken to a number of ministers, and we have plans to speak to a number more. So I think 2nd of February is a line in the sand in terms of getting the bid in. What will need to happen beyond the 2nd of February is a much more ramping up of that. And as you mentioned, legacy projects, Councillor O'Hanlon, as we start to develop those and develop business cases around those, we'll be calling on our partners who would be those departments across government, private sector and others to work with us on those. So there won't be a stop on the 2nd of February. There'll be very much a ramping up of activity in advance of the announcement. There has been, and I think it was been one of the disappointments in my time in this job, is that the lack of new hotel investment. So Olga recently brought you a report, again, looking at the hotel sector. She and I are working on this too. There has been interest, but there has been interest for a number of years, just converting that. It's a very difficult time at the minute for the hotel and the hospitality sector in terms of staff and rising costs and all that. So again, we're being sensitive around that, and we're assisting the existing businesses, but there are still a number of additional inquiries. So that is something we're very mindful to, and we need to build the capacity of that sector. So look, thank you all for the positive feedback and for the support. It's been very overwhelming at times, so we're very grateful, and no doubt we'll be calling on you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, and thanks and to all your team and your efforts. Members, we need a seconder for this, so it's proposed by Councillor Greenfield and seconded by Councillor Holland. So thank you. Next two items, 5.2, 5.3, are items for information, unless someone wants to speak on it. Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for letting me in, Chair. I appreciate you letting me come in under AOB, but I suppose it'd be more appropriate to bring in here now, I suppose, on the Banbridge projects update, Chair. And thank again the team, Shane and Brian and all those who are involved. I think this has been a very great working group. There's been great engagement from our councillors and from all the different stakeholders in the town and our different working groups and our different chambers. But I do want to just note there, Brian, that to thank for the tour that we had of Game of Thrones. I think it was very well good since they've came on board. I think there has been a momentum growing and the buzz going about the town. But just one thing there, Brian, on that, and I did mention this yesterday at the meeting, package one there is about key arrival sites, and in one of those key arrival sites we're saying about the improvement of Banbridge Police Station. I suppose, Brian, and I mentioned yesterday, I would want to ask if the council have looked at this in a serious view. It is up for sale now, and I think going back many years ago, one of the older town master plans, there was different plans put in place with this, or maybe a footbridge across the Ban River there and stuff in Lincoln through the town with the walkways. But this one of Brian Cooder report we brought back on the condition of it. Has the council looked at it with a view to would it be worth purchasing? I mean, we have quite a bit of stuff going on at that end of the town. It has been recognised in our own report here as a gateway into the town, Brian, and it's something that I would like to see. And if it needs a proposal, I propose that we do undertake a report to be brought back. Just, I'm not expecting any answers tonight on it, but it's something that I think is a prime site there that we could look at something to see if it is viable at all, Brian. But if that is needing a proposal, I'd be happy to propose that, Brian. I thought that could be looked at and a report brought back. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Greenfield. Brian, do you want to take that, or Olga, do you want? Brian, want to take it to you? Brian, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Greenfield. I do know there's been some private sector interest in the site as well, and I know some of Nicola's team have been working with, engaging with people around that site, but no, happy to bring something back on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Chair, and suppose, yeah, thank you. Yeah, just I suppose around that, Brian, is that if there's interest in the private sector, and that's good too, but just make sure that it's not something that we miss, that if we later regret if it is a key site that we're wanting to have in the town, so just to make sure we explore that. But thank you, Chair, and thank you for letting me in.
Thank you. Okay, members, with Alderman Burns, then Councillor Pope, and the last speaker will be Councillor Kyle Savage. So Alderman Burns.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to add my thanks to Brian and Shane and the team for all the work that they've done in this package for Banbridge. Certainly, we're talking there about a possible game changer for the borough in the City of Culture, but certainly we are getting a game changer. Having visited the Game of Thrones at the Linen Mill Studio, and hopefully this will have a great effect for the borough. And I do appreciate all the work that has gone in to the projects or the packages that they're looking at here. And you know, there has been, as Councillor Greenfield said, there has been a good input by the councillors in the working group that was set up between the officers, the councillors, and the traders in the town. And certainly I would support having a look at the old police station to see it's a building that this is the first time in a long time that it has come up for sale, and it would be a missed opportunity if we can do something with it or have something. Certainly if private individual wants to buy it and turn it into some business enterprise, that's perfect, but we don't want to miss the opportunity of purchasing this. And thanks once again, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Burns. Councillor Pope, please.
Yes, it was just, I'm not sure if Alderman Burns seconded Councillor Greenfield's proposal, but if not, I would certainly second that. I think it's quite an important gateway. Now, certainly at the Banbridge Steering Committee, Chair, there was a discussion with regards to the cleaning of the Crozier Monument, and you know, I really think that there's a growing interest in Crozier. So it's really an important area. And we also talked about the potential for some information signage. So it's really just to support that and Councillor Greenfield's proposal there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pope. The last word to Councillor Kyle Savage.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose, I don't know, but I just want to put on record conflict. You know, I'm friendly with the family that owns the old police station in Banbridge, and I just want that noted now in case that comes back to haunt at a later stage, but it's been mentioned here. You know, but on that, council can't afford to miss an opportunity, and if there's private investors out there for it, then all the better, and it certainly will improve it from what it is now. But you know, just to congratulate Brian on his team and all the work that they're putting in there now at the Fusion Festival, and hopefully at some time going forward, if we get into the next round, that you'll maybe remember that Lagan River does exist, and we look forward to you maybe having something in Lagan River. And if you need signposting or anything for it, or if you need a map or anything, we'll get it to you, Brian. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Savage. Brian, you want to come in there? Yep.
Well, if it was okay, Chair, I was going to just mention a point in 5.3. I wasn't going to challenge Councillor Savage on that.
Whenever they make Lagan River a city, we'll work it out then.
Maybe you should read the criteria of it.
Councillor Greenfield, you want back in again?
Yeah, thank you, and I'll not get involved in the debate that's going on there on the sides, but it was just something Councillor Savage did mention about signs and stuff, and I think that was also brought up by our working group, Brian, that we do still some have old Banbridge council signs about the place, and they are very dilapidated looking. And this is something brought up at many a different committee, certainly throughout this council, that we're still waiting for some new signs. And again, it was one of the reports from that group, and I think it's probably sad that we've been in this council so long that we're still that an outside agency has to point this out even when they come in. So just be keen to see that we do progress these street signs. For no driving around Banbridge, there's still some old Banbridge district ones, and they're very dilapidated, but it was certainly even raised at that working group. So I think if we could continue working that, it'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Greenfield. And yes, it will be followed up by the Estates team. Brian, back in there, Brian. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, and just on 5.3, just with regard to the Rma Fusion Festival, there's an outline of the programme there. Just with the current COVID restrictions, we're recommending that it is delayed until the weekend of the 24th of March, and we've been given permission by the Tourist Board, because it's in year spend, to deliver the second weekend of that into the first weekend in April. So there's a slight date change on those just due to COVID restrictions. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Councillor O'Hanlon, please.
Again, Chair, can I thank Brian for the team? I think Sarah has been leading on this, and thank her for her work. I think it shows imagine what you can do with a wee bit of imagination across the city, and it shows that if we can secure the City of Culture bid, just what potential there is there. So look, thanks to Brian and Sarah in particular. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon. Okay, members, it's now 28, and that's been a good meeting, and that concludes our meeting. So thank you for all your patience and help and speaking throughout the night. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and good night. Thank you.